Welcome to Previously on X-Men, the podcast that looks at X-Men comics, movies, shows, characters, and more. I'm Hilary, and today I've got Nick with me.
That's right. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good.
We're gonna be talking about the 2019 film Dark Phoenix today.
The X-Men movie that covers the Dark Phoenix story.
That one.
So you mean X-Men 3, The Last Stand?
No, actually, this is a different one. This is one that happens a couple decades earlier.
No.
I don't know what to tell you. This is what they're doing.
Huh. Okay, so they do the same story twice.
Okay.
All right. Look, I'm here for you. Whatever you want to talk about, I'll talk about it.
Okay, so we're talking about Dark Phoenix, the
Okay.
movie.
All right.
About the X-Men.
Yes. Okay.
Tell me about this movie, Nick. Give me some facts.
Oh, well, I would love to. First of all, it was just called Dark Phoenix in theaters. Do you remember that? The posters and everything? Just Dark Phoenix.
Uh-huh.
And then when it came out on, digital or DVD or whatever, it was X-Men, Dark Phoenix. I don't really know why.
It's hard for me, looking back, because I remember at the time that kind of thing mattered.
Yeah.
About, what was, presented as
Right.
part of the whole series and all this stuff. And, I don't know. Right now, I'm just whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I remember back when The Dark Knight came out, and it was kind of a big deal that it was the first Batman movie that didn't have Batman in the title. But we've done these X-Men movies before. I mean, Logan, for example, or the Wolverine don't say X-Men : those things, but this is like a full X-Men team movie.
Yeah, it is funny that this is one that they decided not to initially, because it is it the first time that they are the X-Men doing X-Men things and having
I think
missions
well,
and
I
things?
think it's the first time where they're publicly accepted, where they're not going rogue.
I remember talking about this before.
Yeah.
What's the movie we just did?
Apocalypse.
In Apocalypse, yeah.
Yeah.
They had some team.
They did.
They were
Yeah.
the X-Men in that. Okay.
Well, I kind of wonder if there was any, because this was originally intended to be pre-Captain Marvel. I don't know if there was some thought to having a movie that.
This was initially supposed to be pre-Captain Marvel? What does that mean?
Well, the release date jumped around so much that I think it actually came out after Captain Marvel, but was intended to come out. So I guess I just kind of wondered if maybe
I cannot connect in my brain those two universes.
Well, I'm not trying to connect them. I'm just saying.
No, I'm just saying, I can't.
They feel like they exist
feel
in different.
completely separate to me. The X-Men franchise
On a parallel Earth.
Yes,
you mean? Yeah.
the idea almost that they are happening at the same time
Yeah.
is very trippy for me to try to put them together in my mind.
I don't know. I guess I was just wondering if maybe they were thinking Marvel has never had a movie that just has a female character's name for the title. You know what I mean?
That seems like you're giving them a little more credit than they might deserve.
Well, I don't know.
But that would, if that,
I
that
just
is
wondered, because then it would have been kind of a noteworthy thing.
that it's her name, basically.
That it's saying it's a Phoenix movie with the X-Men in it.
It is a Phoenix movie.
Yeah.
That could be why.
But no one thinks about it that way.
Yeah, that could be why.
So,
I get that.
I don't know.
All right, who wrote it?
Well, it was written and directed by Simon Kinberg.
Uh-huh.
So Simon Kinberg has been involved in most of the X-Men movies. It's the first time he was actually directing one. So, I don't know. When we get into it, we'll see. Do you see hallmarks of a first-time director in there? Are there some things that somebody...
I have this feeling that maybe you do.
Well,
based on how you're saying that.
It's such a strange time to be talking about these movies, because at least by the time it was coming out, and I think even while this was going on, there were rumbles of Disney buying it. Mm-hmm. So I don't know, in these latter-day X-Men movies, I kind of get the sense that they're kind of make an X-Men movie, why not?
Yeah.
It's a fire sale, go ahead. So I don't, I don't know if there was a little bit more of a loosey-goosey approach to this, but I mean, listening to you and Eric talk about all of the past movies, it seems like every X-Men movie, they're
just thrown together.
Oh, we need a script. Somebody get a script.
That is
so
it tends to go.
Maybe it's got nothing here. But this did come out on June 7th, 2019. It was originally scheduled for a 2018 release and then got kicked around a bunch.
Boy, remember 2019?
Not really. And I think, like with New Mutants or other movies that get a lot of release date changes, that is kind of poison, I think, in public perception.
Oh.
If a movie gets moved a lot, you just sort of assume that it's no good.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. But this did jump around a lot. Hans Zimmer did the score.
Always good.
Yes, but he didn't use any of John Ottman's established like character themes or anything like that. So you don't have any musical callbacks, which I always...
You hate that.
I do hate that.
You hate that. I never notice that kind of thing. I mean, unless it's really obvious. I feel like in newer movies, you have to see like 3 or 4 movies in a franchise before you're like, oh,
yeah,
that's a theme. They're
Yeah.
I don't know. They seem less obvious and like, what's the word I'm looking for? Blatant.
Yeah. Well, I think that's true, but like the Avengers, I think have done a good job of when that Avengers themes come in, you're like,
But that's
oh,
what
there
I'm
it is.
saying. Because
Yeah.
I would not, in the first Avengers movie, I would not have been like, yes, there is an Avengers theme.
Right,
But
but
like you keep having it and then it's like, oh, okay. Now
But
I
I
got
think
it.
at this point in the X-Men franchise, that music would have been recognizable.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. I have no idea what you're talking about. And I've seen all of them many times.
All right. Well,
What themes are you talking about?
I mean, there's just sort of there's one that comes in X2 that tends to get used a lot. There are X-Men music cues that I'm positive you would recognize
Okay.
if
all
I
right.
played them for
I'll
you.
take it.
Shall we talk a little bit about cast?
Yeah. We got all the oldies.
I guess at this point they are oldies, because several of them are from, ever since First Class. But
So we got James McAvoy back as Charles Xavier and Michael Fassbender as Magneto, very exciting. Jennifer Lawrence, of course, as Mystique.
Yeah.
Nicholas Hoult as Beast, and that's our old guard right there.
Yeah.
Those 4.
Yeah. Well, and Evan Peters as Quicksilver.
No, he doesn't come in until Days of Future Past.
Oh, I guess I pictured him in First Class.
I know you always talk about him like he's one of those initial people, but yeah, the ones those first 4 are the ones who are from the very start.
Right.
He comes in and he's probably he ends up being part of their cohort.
Yeah.
Like that's how they treat him in this
Well,
movie.
I mean, plus he's a fan favorite.
he stands out.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, so that's those first 4.
Yes.
And then we have kind of like this younger-ish crowd that
The
are
hip
still
crowd.
they're still kind of treated as grown-ups, but I consider them the younger
Yeah,
crowd.
right.
Sophie Turner as Jean and Ty Sheridan as Cyclops.
You don't like him either?
Oh my gosh, I hate.
Oh.
Listen.
Okay. All right.
I'm pretty sure that in previous movies I've just been like, fine, he's fine.
Well, it's only Apocalypse.
Is it just the one?
Yeah.
But this one, I just spent the whole time being like, just get your stupid face out of here.
I don't think that anyone really has anything to do in this, including Cyclops.
Yeah, that's true.
He
but
just
I don't
makes
know.
concerned
I don't know
faces.
if it's because he has the visor all the time
It
and he
doesn't
feels like he has to overact with his mouth.
Yeah.
But his facial expressions are just like, oh, I'm distraught.
Yeah.
And I hate it.
I'm not a fan of that actor. Like I didn't really enjoy his performance in Ready Player One either, and I don't know. I grew up thinking Cyclops was cool and liking Cyclops.
Very interesting.
I know.
Very interesting upbringing.
And so, like, I expect certain things about Cyclops, and I don't think he shows any leadership or any...
No, he's not remotely like a leader.
Like,
And
you
there's this
wouldn't look
moment,
to
I
him
mean,
at
we're just
all.
going to talk about this for just a
all right,
second.
all right.
There's just this moment in this movie when like he steps up and he's talking to the younger kids and it's very clearly supposed to be kind of this moment
Yeah.
where he steps up and he's like, this is what we're going to do. And
Yeah.
here's how we're going to handle this situation. And he just doesn't have it. He just doesn't have it. There's
No.
nothing.
No.
Anyway, so
Okay.
Ty Sheridan.
Ty Sheridan.
I'm sure he's a very nice man. Then we've got Alexandra Shipp as Storm, who I love.
Okay. I agree with you. And I feel like in Apocalypse, she was the only thing that I liked.
She was.
Like, and she doesn't have anything to do here either. Like, she's mostly concerned looks. There's one great scene with her and Xavier.
There's a really good scene.
But I feel like she's underutilized in both.
Her and Scott, too, have a good
Yeah,
one.
that's true. And she just has it.
Yeah.
She just has it.
She just has it. And that's I really enjoy seeing that kind of thing.
Yeah.
When you can just tell that they haven't been given anything.
Right.
Like there's nothing in the writing that's giving her, but she just shines.
That's right. It's not on the page, but the camera's pointed at her and she takes it.
Yeah. So good.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's Alexander
Bravo.
Shipp.
Mhm.
Evan Peters
Yes,
is
of course.
Quicksilver. Everybody loves him,
Yes.
obviously. Then we have Cody Smith McPhee as Nightcrawler.
I like his Nightcrawler.
He's cute.
I like his Nightcrawler.
He's like endearing.
Gets a little murdery
Little
for
murdery,
Nightcrawler, but
little later.
I do like his characterizations for the most
He
part.
feels strongly about that one FBI agent.
Yes, he
or
does.
whatever.
He does.
Olivia Munn was supposed to come back as Psylocke, but she had scheduling conflicts due to Predator,
I
which
remember.
I did not know she was in.
Yeah, I don't think anybody watched that movie, but I don't really remember having any feelings about Olivia Munn as Psylocke. I don't like Apocalypse. I'm just going to get there right out there.
Oh, really?
Apocalypse, to me, is the absolute worst X-Men movie that exists.
Yes, well, the listeners know how I feel about Apocalypse. I don't know. I feel like Olivia Munn was fine, but this was another situation where they just didn't give her a lot.
Yeah.
Like, most of Psylocke in that movie was, like, still shots, basically.
Right.
You know, like,
Yeah.
look at her, she's got her
Yeah.
swords, so whatever.
Yes.
But anyway, I don't miss her. Same thing with Lana Condor. She couldn't come back for Jubilee because of All the Boys I've Loved Before.
Oh.
Which is a familiar name,
Yeah,
but I
that's
don't know
a big,
what that is.
Yeah, I think that's got some legs on it. I remember her from her brief scenes in... Don't they, like, go to a mall? Isn't there a scene where they're like,
yeah, they go to a mall.
Supposed to be the 80s or something. Let's go to the mall. And, I mean, I liked her. I would have liked to have seen more Jubilee.
Yeah, I thought she was good. She had her little jacket. It was cute.
Okay.
So then we've got the new cast. You want to take this?
Okay. Whew. Jessica Chastain phoning it in as the Dabari leader, Vuk.
I thought she was okay.
Did you? Oh, my gosh.
I mean, it's just a very blasé kind of portrayal.
Okay, well, yeah, it is a blasé portrayal, but, like, sometimes that works. I felt like this, they were like, Jessica, we're just marking this, so go ahead and walk through it, all right? That's what it felt like to me.
Okay.
But she's the leader of the Dabari, and that has some comic book ties. The Dabari is the world that's destroyed by the Dark Phoenix.
Yes. Now, I have thoughts about this,
Okay.
about them using this.
All
I
right.
think it's interesting that they used them because
Okay.
it has this history. But I'm pretty sure in the comic, when, like, you don't get to see them.
I don't remember them being, like, weird
No.
shape-shifting. Okay.
I'm pretty sure
Yeah,
Phoenix zooms into the frame.
yeah.
There's a planet, and you see, like, the people
Right.
down there.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that it says something about them being a peace-loving.
Right.
Like, this is supposed to make you feel extra
Yes,
bad about
no,
it.
I think you're
and then
right.
she wipes them out. So I think it's weird that they end up being these, like, monstrous, like, murdery, vindictive people.
Yes, I agree. Though this is just like the fringe of what survived. So maybe the regular old planet folk were having a great time, and these people are
no,
just
listen.
pissed.
Okay, so what I get, like, I can understand, like, your entire race has been destroyed by this person. Maybe you become murdery.
You can understand that?
Yes, I've been through that before.
With context?
Have you not?
Oh, okay.
Anyway, I just don't know. As a writer, I think it's a weird choice to go from, like, specifically peace-loving to
Yes.
crazy murdery. Just,
Yeah.
you know, like, why would you...
Well, I think this went through all sorts of changes. Like,
Well, that doesn't sound right.
I know. When you look at the writing and stuff, because early on, I remember that there was talks that, and I don't know if this was just rumors or if somebody had actually, like, said this aloud, but everybody thought Jessica Chastain was Lilandra, and it was going to be like a Shi'ar thing.
That... I could definitely see that happening just from, like, seeing trailers.
Yeah.
You don't know who she is.
Yeah.
She's from space, and people just being like, "Oh, well, she's probably Lilandra."
But I get the maybe I'm remembering it wrong, but I do feel like that was in play.
I mean, the Shi'ar are missing from this story.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
could be.
Do you know who's not missing from this story? The Dazzler.
Yeah, I was so glad I got to see her.
The Dazzler. So it's funny, in my early X-Men days, because I remember when Pride of the X-Men, like, aired on TV, and then I had the VHS tape that I watched constantly, and then that was the basis for the X-Men arcade game, which I played constantly.
Mm-hmm.
So in my mind, as a child, Dazzler was, like, top-tier X-Men. She was. And then she just, like, disappears from everything
cool.
after that.
I like her vibe because, like, she's one of those characters who's like, yeah, I could help you, but I'm not really a part of this.
Right.
I always like that.
Yeah.
Where they can just walk away and have their own life.
And it's kind of a fun deep cut because Dazzler really is a part of the Dark Phoenix
Yeah.
story. Like, them going and Dazzler's just, like, singing, and they're like, oh, wait, she's a mutant.
Yeah.
Like, that is kind of a bonkers inclusion in the Dark Phoenix
Mm-hmm.
story, but it's there. And so I liked this little thing. And I like Halston Sage. I like her from the...
Does she come back in this? Because I saw that it was her, and I was like, oh, right. But then she doesn't really do anything.
The Orville. The Orville's what I'm trying to think of. The Orville.
Yeah.
And then that serial killer show that was on Fox with Michael Sheen.
Prodigal Son.
Anyway.
Prodigal Son. She's really good in that.
She doesn't come back, but this was intended to be, much like Justice League before it, a 2-part movie. There was
Why did they bother?
I don't know. And it was sort of supposed to be like these 2 movies make up the first story in a trilogy about the new cast. And then, Mickey Mouse was like, I don't think so, huh? So
I'm taking over everything.
I own your house now. So that that did not happen. But I think this was a plant that Dazzler was going to come back.
Okay, so that's why it was like
Yes.
an actual casting.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Not just some random person.
Chris Claremont, who wrote, every X-Men thing for like decades and wrote the Dark Phoenix story.
Chris Claremont.
Chris
Yes,
Claremont.
yes,
You remember him?
Oh, yeah.
That
Okay,
name
sure,
rings a
yeah.
bell.
Mhm.
He has a cameo in the award ceremony.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yes, he's there.
That's fun.
He's there.
Yeah. You skipped one.
I did?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Lamar Johnson as Match. Yes. Not a lot of... I don't really understand, like, what they're doing with... I guess it's mostly just Dabari. You're just seeing Dabari that they're fighting. So you don't get a lot of, like, other mutants really making a scene. But
Yeah, that's true.
But I mentioned Match because, he's a somewhat known character and had a little bit in there. We talked a little bit about production. There was all sorts of things going on. The heavy hitters here of James McAvoy, Michael Fassbender, and Jennifer Lawrence, their contracts were up with Apocalypse, so like new deals had to be reached to do this.
Ooh.
And I read in multiple places that Jennifer Lawrence was like a big Simon Kinberg fan and was the one that was like, "Come on, you got to direct."
Oh, really?
Yeah, if you direct it, I'll come back. And that's what I read in multiple places, so I think that's true. I don't know why, but
I always got the impression that she did not want to be a part of this. I mean, of the franchise.
I don't know. I've never heard her say anything negative about it, like in interviews or anything when she's talking about it.
Maybe I'm just assuming.
I guess I was surprised that she keeps showing up in these movies because, like, when it started, she had a lot of buzz about her career, but then, like, she won an Academy Award for Silver Linings Playbook and was really kind of like A-list.
Yeah.
And still was doing the X-Men movie, so it must have been a rock solid deal. But she comes back here, and I gotta say, I don't really understand the changes in Mystique in this movie. But
What?
we can save that for later.
What do you mean?
Her characterization, I felt like, maybe I'm not remembering Apocalypse right, but I remember even in, like, Days of Future Past, she's still a little, like, foot out the door here. And so for her to be, like, the epitome of the X-Men in this was strange to me.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, we can talk about it.
Okay. All right. So about a $200 million budget here with a worldwide gross of like $254 million. So that doesn't sound that bad, but Deadline Hollywood reports that actually with everything involved in it, that it lost about $133 million.
Yikes.
So it is not a heavy hitter for the franchise. Sorry, I used heavy hitter again. And only New Mutants had a lower gross, but you can't even count that.
You can't count New Mutants.
Yeah.
That was released in 2020.
Right.
It might as well not exist.
So this currently holds a 24% on Rotten Tomatoes, 24% positive. The only thing lower than this is New Mutants. And I don't know that I would put this as higher than the New Mutants, but...
As better?
Yeah. You think it's better than New Mutants?
I don't know if I'm ready to discuss it.
Okay. All right. Sorry. So that's the way it goes. And it's interesting as these, like, the like dying fumes of the X-Men franchise are coming out in conjunction with Deadpool, because the Deadpool movies, which I know you don't like to count as X-Men movies,
no, it's fine,
are at the tippity top, and these are the very bottom. So like Fox is putting out these X-Men movies that are the full range of what X-Men movies can do.
That's funny.
Just kind of a strange situation.
Yeah.
Anyway, there's production for you.
Yeah.
What's your history with this movie?
My history with this movie.
Yeah.
Well, I saw it in theaters when it first came out,
Same.
and then I saw it last night.
Oh, nothing. Not again.
That's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, same for me. I saw it in theaters, and, all the buzz about this was that it was a terrible movie.
Yeah.
Everything was like,
At the time,
you're about to see the worst thing that's ever been committed to film.
Yeah.
So I watched it then, and I watched it in preparation for doing this episode with you. And I remember my experience in the theater was that I sat down and I was like, okay, let's do this. And then I just kept waiting for it to get bad. And it never got as bad as I thought it was going to be. And I was actually pretty into it the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah. My experience overall has been, I had basically the same experience.
Okay.
Like that waiting for it to turn.
Yeah.
I think really affected my viewing experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, by the end, I was like, that was pretty good. I liked that.
Yeah.
And then last night, it was like both not as good as I remembered and not as bad as I thought it might be. It was just sort of like a movie.
I remember, particularly in the theater, there's a space sequence. We'll get into it, but that I thought was particularly good. And I thought that was such a great start to the movie, that kind of like, I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe, but I had a less warm feeling about it on the rewatch.
Yeah.
Like watching it not in theaters, just like sitting on a couch, I was kind of like, okay.
Yeah.
Like I didn't really have any strong feelings one way or another.
I remembered very strongly feeling like when I watched it the first time, it had really interesting like cinematography and felt kind of like a horror movie and was like just sort of like interesting.
Horror?
Like yes, like the shots. I have images in my brain of Jean doing something and having just something about the way she's manipulating her surroundings, just feeling really like kind of surreal and like creepy.
This is a genuine question. Are you sure you're not confusing it with Last Stand?
I really might be, but I don't. I might be, but like I have a vivid memory of this movie, of going to this movie and coming out and being like, I thought that was really interesting because it had these really weird shots and like felt kind of eerie and stuff. And on the rewatch, I was just like, well, that's fake. That's not what it's like at all.
It had a little bit of a TV vibe to me. Did you get that at all?
Oh, no.
No? Okay.
All right.
That's the end of that conversation.
I guess so. I did not get that vibe.
Okay.
So when it starts, I thought it was a pretty cool way to start because it's got Jean doing a melodramatic narration.
Which, isn't that how X2 starts?
I mean, a lot of them start with an Xavier.
Yeah, but I feel like Jean does voiceover in that one.
Oh, does she?
I think so. I don't know if I've heard
Famke Janssen
You'll have to go back and
that
listen
much
to your own
in an X-Men
episode.
Movie. But yeah, so that's how she starts, and it's fine. It's, how they are. And then we cut to young Jean in the car with her parents. And can I just... I don't want tragic parent death stories.
Yes.
Let me open with that.
Okay.
But I would love to see a tragic parent death scene, like a memory that motivates the character.
Okay.
I would love to see one of those that isn't a car crash.
Yeah.
That isn't like you watch them and they're having a conversation and either they're fighting or they're having a nice time and then the parent gets distracted and it's sort of the kid's fault and then they crash.
Yeah.
Is that not every movie?
No, it's a lot. It is a very cliche scene. Well, and it takes away any kind of surprise. I mean, not that you thought that she was going to have an idyllic life, but as soon as it goes to the scene with the parents and the kid, you're like, okay, well, this is where the parents die, So yeah, they're messing with the radio and she wants to listen to something else and she starts changing it with her mind. Though she seems to not
really tell. Yeah, you can't tell if because I mean, she's a kid. So she could just be like, no, it's not me, huh? Whatever. But it seems like she genuinely is not doing it on purpose.
I think it's out of her control.
Yeah.
I think it's the purpose of that.
But the parents seem like she's moving the dial with her mind. The parents seem to have had previous experience with her doing this kind of thing because they are asking if it's her doing it. And the way that they say those lines, it just sort of it indicates that,
this is a spooky thing they have to deal with.
Yeah, like they aren't just like, what's happening? What could possibly be happening? They connect it with her. Mm-hmm. So then basically all we see is they get distracted and then kind of like veer off and crash into an oncoming truck.
Yes.
Jean sort of instinctively puts this bubble around her to protect her, and you sort of watch all the rubble sort of hitting that. But she does not instinctively protect her parents, and they appear to die.
Yes.
And so we don't get a lot of like visible trauma in that moment with Jean. She's kind of, we just like, that happens. There's not like the typical scene of like, Mom, or anything like that. But, it happens. It obviously is traumatic.
Sure.
Next thing you see, she's in a hospital or something.
I guess, yeah.
And
they're all like, oh, there's not a scratch, nurse.
This is amazing. What's happening? Xavier comes in. He's wheelchair Xavier.
Yeah.
He's,
but he's
the school.
He's sexy long hair, corduroy jacket Xavier.
Yes. So I think the indication is that he's been doing this for a bit. So he comes in and he wants to talk to her. He's different from the other doctors.
Sure.
He's very charming.
Yeah.
He seems to really understand her.
What is that corduroy jacket, I think?
I think it's mostly, Does he have patches on the elbows?
Probably.
I don't think we see the patches, but they're heavily
they're
indicated.
there. They're there.
And so she's what? She's 8?
Sure.
And he talks to her and she thinks she's broken. No, you're not broken. And all this kind of to the mansion.
Yeah. Hey, you don't think he's gonna like mess with her mind and like lie to her a bunch, do
That
you?
would be so against character.
Yeah, inappropriate. I think it'd be inappropriate. So.
I don't know if we could forgive him for something like messing with the memories of an 8-year-old girl.
Certainly, we couldn't forgive him if he did it every single time. There'd be no way.
No.
To redeem the character.
So I think we can rest easy that he's not going to do anything like that.
Woo.
But that's basically, we see them go to the mansion, and now we, I guess, assume that she's going to be raised in this mansion.
Yes.
From the age of 8.
Yes. Dark Phoenix.
Dark Phoenix.
That's our title sequence. Oh, the X. We got a little X action at the top of this.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, at the beginning when you have what is it 20th Century Fox still?
Now I don't remember.
I don't remember when that changes. Anyways, the Fox thing at the beginning.
Yeah.
You get fire in the X.
Yeah, and it does linger.
And then
it lingers a little bit, old school.
They all used to do.
Pretty cool.
So, next scene.
Yeah, so we're just like in the X-Men mansion now, and it's very clear that time has passed. Xavier's bald. He's wearing a three-piece suit.
Well, it shows the date. It shows the date. I think it says 1992.
Oh my gosh. These movies and their dates, it's insane to me. So you're telling me that like Beast, Nicholas Holt's Beast, is like 55. Is that what I'm to understand? Because the first one, because First Class was during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Oh my gosh.
So, okay, whatever. So sure, it's the 90s.
1992.
It's 1992.
It's 1992, and then it's Xavier and Beast are watching
like CNN or whatever,
and, like,
you know.
The Endeavour shuttle is launching, cool, but then it's having some sort of trouble, and you get sort of a fun little exchange, like a cute, like, we know each other kind of exchange between the two of them as they're trying to decide what to do.
Well, I mean, you get kind of a familiarity there because they are, as you said, they're kind of the old guard now.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, and I like how they've been establishing Beast as sort of his right-hand man and, like, the guy who's devoted to Xavier and stuff. Well, I like how that's been...
Because you've kind of been without a Cyclops, and so...
Right,
you know.
Yeah. But it works, and it gives you a good opportunity for later in this movie because he has this dedication to the cause and stuff.
So they're watching this, and then an old style phone with just one big button that's an X-shaped button rings, and it's the president.
The president!
The president looks very Nixon-y, so I was confused.
Does he?
He does.
I was thinking he looked Reagan-y. Anyway, so he's calling because the X-Men are a thing.
They almost feel like deputized.
Yeah.
We saw a little bit in Deadpool 2. Remember we were talking about that movie? There's a scene where the X-Men get called in for the situation. Yeah. And that was kind of the first time...
That's what I'm thinking of. I'm thinking of Deadpool.
Okay. And that was a time where you're actually seeing the X-Men. Yes. They probably had a big X phone. You know, so there's a nice little bit of
that's what
correlation there. But and so the X-Men are getting called in. They assemble in the hangar. They're all wearing these jumpsuits that are... navy and have the big yellow X, you know.
I don't know if it's my age.
Okay.
But I have a really hard time seeing most of these people as not kids.
I mean, they're young. They are young. So.
But like they're presented in the story as, I mean, like Xavier says at some point, like they're not kids anymore.
Yeah.
Like that these are adults.
Well, again, the timeline makes no sense because Apocalypse was supposed to be in the 80s and this is 92.
Yeah.
So you'd have to say that Jean and Cyclops are like 30, you know?
Yeah, they don't look 30.
They don't look 30.
At all.
They don't look 30.
I feel like Jean could sell being older, but Nightcrawler and Cyclops look like 14 to me. Anyway, none of that matters. They gather in the thing. Mystique is like the team leader.
She is fully in charge, and that was the first part to me that it was kind of like, okay.
Yeah, I feel like at the end of
Apocalypse,
she did have kind of
You're
a
right.
like, I'm going to commit to this kind of vibe.
Listen, I try not to think about the movie Apocalypse, but I do think the end has Mystique being like, okay, everyone, we're going to put you through these tests. And
rip up your textbooks. I
feel
like we've talked about that.
Okay. I remember that now. All right, then I accept
so
it.
she's in charge. And I'm glad we cleared that up because what I wanted to say is that I feel like her character has the most interesting character stuff.
Oh, for sure.
In this movie.
Yep.
So I'm really glad to see her in that role.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so she is getting them all ready.
And by them all, the team right now is Beast, Mystique, Nightcrawler, Jean, Cyclops, Storm, and Quicksilver.
It's not a bad team.
No, it's not a bad team.
Not a bad team. Jean sort of hangs back because she feels like Mystique is maybe not super cool with this.
Yeah.
But Mystique comes back and she's like, we'll be fine. If anything goes wrong, I will turn us right around. Let's do it. But you also, the audience gets this feeling that Mystique is concerned about the kinds of risks that Xavier is taking with the team.
So then we go into space, and for my money, this is the best sequence of the movie.
It's pretty good.
And I held it up pretty high in X-Men sequences throughout the franchise. I think this is a very good sequence.
Well, it's one of the grander ones that we get. A lot of the action in the X-Men is very grounded, I feel like, for the most part. It has a very grounded feel.
Yeah, but not only that, I mean, they really are functioning as a team in a way that you don't see them do very much. They fall into patterns, but this is the structure of the team. These are the roles that we play.
Exactly. The way that Mystique directs them, it feels very much like these are things they've done before.
Yeah.
Do the thing that you do.
Yeah.
So they get up into space. This is the first time that any of them have been in space,
yes.
and apparently it's fine.
It's totally fine.
I was really glad that we didn't get that, once they break into, they get out of the atmosphere, I was really glad not to have one of those, oh, we don't have gravity, something's spinning. Those. I was watching it, and I was like, don't do it. Don't do it. And they didn't, so that was nice.
Mm-hmm.
They get there, and the shuttle is spinning, which initially I was like, why is the shuttle spinning? But they immediately explain it.
There are some questions about is that how space works? A couple of times.
But they immediately explain because one of the thrusters is misfiring.
Yes.
And so that's causing it to spin. So this is a problem because Nightcrawler can't get a clean look so he can bamf in there. And so this is where we get snap into action. Mystique sends Cyclops down into this fancy little hole in the jet to zap the thing, to zap the shuttle so that it stops.
It's the jet zapper.
It's the jet zapper. He has great aim. He just gets the thruster right on.
Good for you, Space Chief.
So he stops the spinning. Storm ices over the leaks in the shuttle.
Can I ask a question about that?
Yeah.
Can you manipulate weather in space?
There's no weather in space.
Storm... Where's the moisture coming from?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay. Maybe she's pulling it from the upper atmosphere.
Oh.
Maybe she is using Earth weather.
Suddenly all the team's very dehydrated. They're like, what's happening?
I don't know. I'm not going to get into it too much, but that was a weird moment.
All right.
Nightcrawler takes Quicksilver over to the shuttle to rescue the crew. So he teleports over there, and then Quicksilver is going to zip around and unhook everybody.
This is a little bit of a different Quicksilver scene, because I remember, in your episode about Apocalypse, you guys were talking about how frustrating it was that they repeat the Quicksilver scene without adding any extra effort for him.
I hated that.
They do it here, and it's a smaller scene and fewer people and everything, but he's trying to operate while things are moving, and Nightcrawler is still sort of in teleport mode, that's how quick he's going. And so there is kind of a panic to Quicksilver there. I would have liked to have seen that expanded, seen more of that.
Yeah.
But I did like that we had a different
we get that a lot. We get that version of him a lot more in this movie. Later too, he just is trying things and putting effort in. Yeah, I think that's a nice thing to be able to see from him. Yep. They get everybody out, right?
Well, they get everybody who's in the main area, but somebody was out working on something, and they're like, we can't. We don't have time to go back at this. So Mystique is like, buckle up, everybody. This ship's going back to Earth.
Well, this is what she said she was going to do. She was like, I'm not going to take unnecessary risks. Right. So they're ready to go, but Xavier is like, no, we're not going to leave anyone behind.
So
and you really get the...
He's buckled into Cerebro.
Yes, so he's communicating with them. You really get the impression... I don't know, something about his delivery. It just really... It carries the weight of him doing it for appearances. It doesn't feel like we're not leaving anyone behind is a moral imperative for him. Yeah. It feels like he's made a calculated decision. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Am I imagining that?
No. I think in the first act of this movie, Xavier is exclusively gross.
Yeah.
The flashback stuff, he seems genuine. But once you get there and he's got the suit and the X phone that he's calling the president with, he's a douche.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But anyway, so he declares, no, they're not going to leave anyone behind. And he says... Jean can hold together that shuttle.
Yeah.
And then he talks directly to Jean.
Yeah.
He says, you could do it.
Cool.
And this feels so manipulative.
Yeah.
You just really feel the change in the relationship.
Yeah.
Because like with he and Mystique are equals.
Mm-hmm.
But you know that he has raised Jean.
Right.
From a very fragile position.
Yeah.
And you can just feel that like manipulative, pushy dad thing.
Yeah.
Like she's an Olympic athlete and he's like, no, you can do it.
And,
play on your broken leg.
Right. And he's essentially like jumping the chain of command, you know?
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't have, like, they're not set up so that Xavier is countermanding Mystique in the field and giving direct orders that counter what she says. I mean, that's not how it works.
Right.
And so he's being inappropriate regardless.
Yeah. It's like he's breaking the professionalism of the moment and making it more of a family issue.
He's saying, like,
which is automatically going to make it a more dangerous situation because then emotions are involved.
Right. Yeah. I feel like he's essentially saying to Mystique, like, look, we can pretend to be equals, but when push comes to shove, you know, only one of us is in the chair, okay?
Yeah. Oh, but talking about him being in Cerebro, I did like the moment when he first goes there, because, like, they're all in space.
Yeah.
And then Xavier goes to Cerebro and gets it on, and then he's, like, talking to NASA, and he's like, okay, I just want to let you know we're all good. It's just it's very, like, official, I guess. And, like, we're going to take care of this, and blah, blah, blah. And I liked that. So anyway, they decide that Jean can hold together the shuttle long enough for Nightcrawler to find the missing person.
Yes.
But she can't do it unless she's over there, which makes sense to me. Yeah. The way she does it, because she's like, they get over there and she's like pulling it into her.
Yes.
That makes sense that she would have a hard time like holding together a structure that she's not like in.
Yeah.
So she's over there doing that. Nightcrawler's flashing all over the place trying to find the person. He finds the person. She's alive, which is good news. But you keep seeing, you know what we didn't mention?
What?
The Phoenix Force.
Oh, yes.
Everybody, this whole time, the Phoenix Force has been undulating in space around the shuttle.
Yes, this is where they start interacting with it.
Yes.
But you do see sort of an energy ribbon, potentially the Nexus from Star Trek Generations, but
it doesn't move nearly as rapidly.
Okay, all right. You're right.
So
yep, good note.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's there. And so while Nightcrawler is looking, we keep getting kind of like encroaching. The Force is getting closer, and it's very clearly now, it breaches at some point the shuttle and is getting closer.
Yes, and you get a distinct sense that it's seeking out Jean.
Yes.
Jean?
Jean? So they find the person. Nightcrawler brings it back and is ready to rescue Jean, but it's too late.
Yeah.
The energy kind of like goes into her, and there's some sort of blast that blows him away, and he bamfs back to the
almost like
jet.
a reflex. I think.
And leaves Jean behind.
Right. And
everyone's like, no, and then there's a big explosion, and all that's left is Jean, sparkly Jean.
Yeah.
Floating in space.
Yes.
And everyone's like, she's dead.
Clearly dead. Yeah, that's the thing.
She's just
no question.
by herself in space. Can we just take a second?
Sure.
To talk about Nightcrawler's little like space suit? Because
Quicksilver makes
they put a helmet on his head and like duct tapes it around fine. Yeah. But like his hands are open to space. Yeah.
Okay.
It's like the only thing is just the suit that he wears, and then a helmet so he can breathe and stuff. But like, isn't that wouldn't you?
It seems like a problem. Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Freeze or like your hands fall off. I don't know. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
For sure, but it seems like that would be bad for your hands.
Yes, the vacuum of space I don't think is good for the human
Not
body.
Not beneficial in general. I mean, like he wouldn't implode, I guess, like you do, but
yes, because it's not. I think he takes one of the astronauts' helmets and Quicksilver attaches it with like duct tape.
Yes.
And so, I mean, it is. He's just wearing like a cotton polyester blend jumpsuit. You're right.
Anyway, so that happens.
Yeah, it's not
great.
And
it was distracting.
Yeah, a little bit.
So, regardless, she's floating in space. Nightcrawler teleports over and gets her body to bring back to the jet.
Yeah. But she's like, ship out of danger. and they're like, you did it, Jean. And she's okay. She's alive.
She's fine. And they're all very relieved.
Yep.
Don't actually seem super shocked.
They don't.
They're very relieved.
They don't seem surprised.
And that's it.
Can I ask you a question?
You can.
I'm going to admit to you and your listeners that Phoenix has always confused me. Okay. Like the X-Men animated series Phoenix episodes I found so confusing. I've read the Phoenix Saga. I've read the Dark Phoenix Saga. Mm-hmm. And it's a little bit to me like Green Lantern and Parallax and all that kind of stuff. Like, I never fully understand where the line is, because in Apocalypse, she taps into the Phoenix Force, right?
She doesn't tap into the Phoenix Force.
It's not the Phoenix Force.
It seems like it. Well, I think part of the problem is that creators and like the people who are making the movies can never quite decide in the moment if they're going to make Jean be the Phoenix,
right,
or Jean have the Phoenix Force,
right?
Because I think sometimes it happens either way. Like, sometimes the Phoenix is just her crazy power.
So,
and sometimes it's a space entity that takes her over.
So then I guess I do understand it.
Yes.
But I guess I felt like in Apocalypse, that was supposed to be the Phoenix.
I think
she was
that
supposed
could
to be phoenixing.
Yeah, yes.
But here we're just saying, no, she has a lot of power, and now the
Phoenix Force
is taking over her.
Yeah.
And
I suspect that was just a shift in direction.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well, that's what it seems like. Because I really thought we were supposed to, because there was a lot of criticism of that. It's like, so teenage Jean can wield the Phoenix Force now? You know, so I don't know if they were kind of like, psych, here's the real Phoenix Force.
Yeah.
But it's a little...
I would say, for the sake of these movies, that it's in Apocalypse, she unleashes her full potential.
Okay.
And that sort of is the beginning of her being powerful enough that it summons the Phoenix first.
The Phoenix Force. Okay.
And then it comes, and then it's like real Phoenix.
I accept your explanation of this.
That's what I would say.
Okay.
So they come back to Earth, and it's really fun because everybody's very like cheering. They have like fans who are all dressed up as them.
Yeah, little girls with Mystique dolls.
Yeah, it's nice, and they sort of appreciate the experience.
Yeah.
They come back to the mansion. There's like all of the students are there. There's a lot of kids. Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah, a lot. It's a robust school.
And they're all there, and Xavier gives kind of a little speech.
They're like, it's the X-Men, everyone.
Yeah.
You can be like them too. Class dismissed.
Yes. Very grand.
Mystique, however,
not cool with this.
No.
So she follows Xavier into his office, and she's just mad.
Yeah.
She's just mad.
Well, rightfully so. He's the worst.
And
would you say that Charles Xavier is the antagonist of this movie?
I think he's the antagonist of the X-Men universe.
That's true.
Well, I mean, anyway.
That's true.
But so it's a really cathartic scene.
Yeah.
Because she just comes in and is like, you are taking more and more risks with these kids, and you're just in it for the glory. It's all your ego, and he's, denying it, and no, I'm blah. But basically, it feels like she's just over it completely.
Yeah. I feel like you can knock these movies for a lot of things, and we just were picking apart an inconsistency. But I feel like McAvoy's Xavier, you can kind of chart this pretty well, because when you first see him in First Class, he's just kind of like hitting on women and using his powers to be a jerk, and then he sort of has a moment where he's like, oh, I should be serious about this, and he kind of fluctuates. So I totally buy him just being this cad, like, hey everyone, I'm so great, and let me use my greatness. I really think that is all on screen. We've seen that trajectory. Don't you?
I definitely
Then we cut to Cyclops and Jean, which thankfully it's like their only scene with just the two of them, because...
Where they like live in the same room and
I guess.
Stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. They just don't feel like they're in a relationship at all.
No. I don't... Look, I've already dinged Ty Sheridan a little bit, but Cyclops is given nothing in this. Like, he has concern for Jean, but Cyclops doesn't have any, like, agency of his own. You don't get the sense that Cyclops is doing anything. But they have this scene with the two of them where they're like kissy and a little like sexy together, and it's just there's nothing there. In my opinion, they have no chemistry.
They have zero chemistry.
And without the chemistry, the relationship, you don't buy it at all.
No. And you sort of figure out throughout the movie that they apparently have this like really devoted love for each other, but it's just not there.
No, it's not.
You just don't see it.
No.
I think if you didn't know that like Jean and Cyclops were a thing, there would be no emotional connection whatsoever.
It's like a quintessential X-Men thing that Jean and Cyclops have this like deep, often unhealthy love for each other. you know, and like Cyclops in particular does like reckless things in pursuit of his love for Jean. And to see it here where they're just kind of like, I love you so much. I don't know. It really stood out to me as a missed opportunity. I'm not a fan. I don't really enjoy her interpretation of Jean either.
I know you don't. I like it. I think I get it. Yeah. I mean, her look is different than you expect for Jean. I think usually Jean you see kind of like a willowy, like...
Yeah.
I don't know how to describe it.
Yeah. Coffee house Jean.
And so the look is different. Her portrayal of like the emotions of her, I don't know. I guess usually I picture Jean as having a more stereotypical female caring vibe.
True.
And you don't get that from this Jean. But I kind of like it better.
When you read the old X-Men stuff, and I mean like the first couple of decades of X-Men, Jean is usually portrayed as like the mom or the sister. Exactly. Like, I'm the girl X-Men.
Yeah.
And even in the animated series, she's always like, Scott, oh! You know what I mean? Like, she's very...
So this is definitely a different portrayal, but I appreciate it. I like it.
All right. I'm not saying I want her to be that way. I just don't... I couldn't connect it to, like, a Jean Grey type character.
Yeah, I could see that.
All right.
So after this love scene, so lovey, we cut to some family having a dinner party.
Just a nice...
On like, I mean, it's sort of like a sun porch or something.
It looks nice.
And there's a dog barking. And
Margaret is her name.
Margaret.
The matriarch.
Yeah, we've got a man and a woman on opposite. Like they're both at the heads of the table.
Yes.
And so you think they're the hosts.
Yeah.
In whatever situation they're in.
Is happening.
She's like, I gotta go check on the dog. And he's like, she's fine. And she's like, I'm just gonna go check. And you're like, okay, well, you're gonna die.
Should be fine.
So she goes into the woods to check on the dog and walks directly into an X-Files episode. And she walks past the dog and the dog's like, no. That's not what I wanted you to do.
Yeah.
And these creatures...
It's like willowy monsters
emerge.
Come out.
They look like tree people to me.
Tree people?
Yeah, like I guess it's because they're coming out of the woods, but like their skin looks like bark.
I think maybe that is I think that's their camouflage. Because they're shapeshifters.
Oh!
So I think there's like, because when you see her
so they do look like bark.
I think they do look like bark.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think so.
All right, so anyway, they come out and she's like, oh no!
Yeah.
And then cut.
Yeah, and you hear like a dog being like, "Arr!" which I didn't need. And then you see Jessica Chastain. Well, you see like a amorphous blob monster thing form into Jessica Chastain. And then she comes in and really ruins this dinner party.
Just like destroys this dinner party. I like how effortless the violence is from these creatures.
You're kind of a ghoul.
I just like, because like she walks in and like the guy comes up and is like, what's going on or whatever. And she just sort of like vaguely touches him.
Yeah.
And he falls over.
And then everybody's like, Jessica Chastain.
And then Jessica Chastain kills everyone. Oh, and then you see the other creatures sort of like
take the
encroach.
Can they not just take the, like, do they have to kill the people to take the forms?
Maybe.
Because
they don't want to get caught.
Okay.
I don't know. But they seem to kill people and then take their forms.
I guess. They didn't kill those trees, is all I'm saying.
But that's all we get from that. Like, we don't know what's going on, but...
End of scene.
That's it. Then we get to another party, a big rager in the forest with all of the kids, the mutants doing like zappy things and freaking out. And we have Dazzler singing her song.
In a romper.
Yep, she's very dazzlery. I was disappointed that it
so clearly was not her singing?
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it felt very much like there was music happening and she was dancing to that music.
The first time, I did not realize that she was supposed to be singing.
Yeah.
And then this time I was like, oh, her lips are moving.
Yeah.
But it's funny. Yeah, it doesn't sound like...
But she was pretty cool. It was a pretty cool Dazzler.
Yeah, it was.
In general.
Yeah. Like, she's sort of manipulating the things that are around her.
Yeah, the light and stuff.
She's a powerhouse in the X-Men arcade game. That's all I'm saying. Her mutant power, forget it.
So then we have Jean and Cyclops off to the side, and Jean's like drinking more, and she just sort of has this like, you can just tell that something's going on.
She's got a swagger. She's got a swagger about her.
Yeah, and people keep asking if she's okay, and she keeps being like, I feel like better than okay.
Yeah, if that makes sense.
So But they don't really super seem concerned yet. So that party's happening. Then we cut back into the mansion. And Mystique is approaching Beast.
So here's one thing about this relationship. They planned this really early that the two of them have a relationship.
Uh-huh.
But depending on which version of Days of Future Past you watched, it's completely dropped. Because the non-Rogue cut, the theatrical version of Days of Future Past, has nothing with Beast and Mystique. The Rogue cut continues that whole thread.
Yeah.
And so I really feel like if you're watching these new class movies, you have to watch the Rogue cut for the Beast Mystique stuff to make any sense.
Yeah.
But it's a really good scene of the two of them with Mystique sort of being like, this is not our scene anymore.
Yeah.
Like, he wants different things and I don't want to be a part of that. And I feel like Beast Hank kind of gets that, but I don't think he's ready to make that break yet.
Yeah.
But I don't think he thinks she's wrong, is what I'm saying.
Right. This is what I mean about him being kind of devoted to Xavier. It feels like he can't get himself to even consider leaving.
Yeah.
Because, like, this is just part of his identity.
Yeah.
But they're talking, it's just cool because they're talking about, like, how they fought to make the world better for them so they could live this life. And Mystique is like, yeah, so we should live it. We should go ahead and live that because we're not living our life. This is his. This is all him.
Yeah. I think, too, to go back to Days of Future Past, when you think about the Beast-Xavier relationship, because remember, Xavier was, like, in constant pain, and Beast was the only one that was around.
Right, yeah.
And Beast is experimenting with his, like, look-changing thing. It's just a lot happening, and it's, like, just the two of them in that mansion. So I totally buy the bond that they have.
Definitely. So, yeah, they sort of are, but they're also sort of monitoring things. Yeah. Like, they're in some sort of security.
They're like watching the kids' party.
They're working at the time.
Meanwhile,
Xavier's getting a medal.
Hooray!
Yay! There's a whole big party.
And he's so corny at the. You call us superheroes?
Oh,
what does that even mean?
I don't call myself a superhero, but I've heard some people say.
If others do.
Yes, well. So that's all nauseating.
It is.
Then we get back to the party, and Jean. What triggers her?
I don't know that anything particular triggers her. I think it's just like the noise and the encroachment of people and just where she's at. She starts to have a moment of like...
She feels like she's having a panic attack.
Yeah, and she's like, gets some memory flashbacks and she gets like sparkle veins, you know.
I like the sparkle veins.
Yeah, and she's just freaking out. And you hear like Dazzler's song and like everything going on.
Yeah. So then once she starts getting upset...
Yeah.
It seems like... Just the rule is it just what's the word?
Hulk. The Incredible Hulk.
No.
Okay.
Snowballs.
Okay.
Once she gets upset and then she's upset that she's upset.
Yeah.
And then it just like all goes crazy
right.
and she loses control.
Mystique and Beast catch this on the monitors and they're like, oh, something's going on with Jean.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like running into action. And Scott is trying to be like, let's all just calm down, you know.
People tell her to calm down a lot.
They sure do.
That's usually a very useful way to.
If you're upset and someone says to calm down,
it's easy.
Oh, okay.
Just calm down.
Yeah.
But she amps up and amps up and amps up, and then finally she's saying be quiet or something like that.
Yeah.
And because she's got these voices sort of in her head because of the memories maybe.
Yep.
And finally she's like, quiet! And she like bursts out and she knocks over trees and everybody falls over. It's a very grand kind of a moment. And then she passes out because that's what women do when they exert themselves.
So Xavier feels this and is at the party. He's like, I gotta roll. I gotta get out of here. And so he leaves and heads back for this thing.
Honestly, he handles his departure with aplomb. I find.
Very complimentary of you.
He was just like, thank you so much, I have to go. I don't know, there was something about like the delivery that felt very like, appropriate to the moment.
So back at the mansion, Beast, Mystique, and Xavier walk into Cerebro, and it is kind of a cool moment because they're the trio of this movie. They're like the leadership. Yeah. And so to see them sort of be like, all right, these crazy kids. And so he Cerebro's up, and they are enveloped by images of Jean's mind.
And this is just a thing that everyone's okay with.
Yes, we're fine.
Every single time that Xavier's like, I'm just going to check. Oh, no, because they go into Cerebro because he can't get into her mind.
Right.
He's like, I can't get in, so I'm going to force my way in with this machine.
Cool.
Into her brain.
Cool.
But anyway, so they're enveloped by it. And Mystique says, is this what it's supposed to look like? Because it's very swirly and kind of dark and weird. And we discover, I was thinking, like initially, oh, it looks so weird. That must be because of the Phoenix Force. But no.
No.
It is because Xavier, throughout her entire life, has been just going in and just manipulating her memories and just like patching things.
Nothing wrong with that.
And putting up walls, he says, and all of this crap.
Changing her perceptions about
he
events.
says. Scaffolding.
Yeah. Okay.
Because he says that a telepath's mind is fragile and all of this stuff. So all of the damage that is in her mind that we see now appears to have been caused entirely by Xavier.
It's his way to protect her.
And he is talking about this like, yep, this is a thing I do. It's fine. I'm just taking care of her. And you just see Mystique over his shoulder becoming more and more horrified.
She's like, the hell? Yeah. So Jean starts waking up. And, like, she's hearing voices, she's seeing flashbacks about her parents, and figures out that it seems like her father is alive.
Yeah. I thought that it was a memory, but I think that what she actually is hearing
is him.
Yeah. I think she hears his actual voice.
Yeah.
And is like, that's my dad.
Yeah.
And he's alive.
And he just lies to her. Professor X is just like, no, you're just confused. Don't even worry about that.
Yeah. And, like, I think it's good acting because he does seem genuinely concerned for her.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem like he's trying to cover up his mistakes. Like,
I agree.
I really feel his like, oh no, she's going to go there and then he's going to be a jerk to her. This is going to be terrible. I have to stop this.
Well, like any good villain, he feels his actions are just, you know?
Yeah.
So.
But she pushes him out completely. And
true, but not before he keeps being like, turn it up.
Oh, right.
And so, like, his nose is bleeding and it's like tearing him apart trying to hang on.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, she pushes him out. And then that's Cyclops. We see Cyclops running through because he hears her or whatever and goes to check on her.
You always get a tiny, like, they never, ever, ever, ever address it. But you always get just a smidge of an inkling that they might have that psychic rapport that they have in the comics.
Maybe, yeah.
Because there's a couple times when it's like that where, like, he sort of senses
he
something.
Just knows something's up.
And later, when things happen and she's in space, he seems to sort of, like, have, like, he knows when something happens.
Yeah, you're right.
But they don't, I mean, it's very subtle. They don't really do anything with it.
So he finds her and she says she has to go find her father. And he's like, he's dead? And she's like, no, I hear him. And he's like, well, let's go do it. And she just knocks him out.
Yeah. Yeah, because he's like, I'll risk being with you. And she's like, no, I hurt people. And he's like, no, I'll take that risk. And she's like, I won't.
Yeah.
And she knocks him out. And she has a similar ease with this. That's another thing that I really enjoy, the way that she keeps knocking people out with just like this very subtle gesture.
You don't even know it's happening. It's just, he just sort of like leans and then you're like, oh, he's out. He's out.
I like it.
Yeah.
It's cool.
That's cool. Yep.
And then she's just gone.
Yep.
She runs.
So Charles wakes up and they're like, okay, well, we got to mobilize and go find Jean. Mm-hmm. And then we get a little scene with Vuk and the Dabari.
Yeah. Yeah. So they're gathering up. Is it that they've been there this whole time?
I don't.
It sort of feels like maybe these, like, not her. Like, I think she just sort of came recently. But it feels like when she's gathering her team, that maybe a lot of them have sort of placed themselves at
in level. Yeah, like the
high
one is like an
levels
FBI.
Right. Like they've infiltrated is the word. They've infiltrated.
Which doesn't. I mean, I guess if they're just essentially like refugees because their planet was destroyed and they're just like trying to settle on places because they can't be there because of Jean, I don't think. It honestly feels like a cutscene, or it feels like they were like, don't worry about it. We don't need to flesh out the Dabari because nothing really makes sense about what they're doing.
Yeah.
I don't think. So basically they figure out, okay, well, it's in Jean. She can wield it somehow.
Because they're seeking the power.
They're seeking the power.
That destroyed
so, like, we
their
got to
planet.
find her. We got to take her.
And you sort of, there's something about what they say that feels like this is something that they do. Like they look from planet to planet. trying to find it, or they follow it, or
because
something.
they want to harness it.
Yeah,
I guess.
they want to harness it.
But like, to what end?
Control?
I guess.
I don't know. So anyway, then we get to Jean gets to her house. It's a nice classic Midwestern.
Yes.
Look how normal her life was.
Just houses and things.
Her dad opens the door and she's very emotional. He is not as horrified as I imagined. He opens the door.
No.
I was thinking that he would just be like, get away from me.
Yeah.
But he
doesn't recognize her at first, but he like goes to get her water and stuff, and he's not. I mean, he's
not warm.
No. And he's clearly a terrible person, but he's not. I don't know that he knows that she thinks he's dead. You know what I mean? I think he just thinks he sent her off to this boarding school and then just kind of checked out.
Yeah.
So
anyway, she's very, very happy to see him.
But then she kind of realizes as she's looking around, like there's no pictures of her on the walls, and she's kind of seeing in his mind what happened. And he's like, hey, don't just, like, if you're going to try to figure this out, figure the whole thing out. And he's basically like challenging her to look it up. So she does.
She looks in his memories.
And sees that she straight up caused the death of her mother.
Right.
And so that kind of pushes her over the edge just as the X-Men arrive out.
That, which is a cool moment because, like, she's getting upset and the house starts to shake.
Yeah.
And her dad's like, stop, Jean, stop. And she's like, it's not me. It's them because it's the jet shaking the house.
So the Blackbird's landing and Mystique is furious about the lies.
Yes.
And so she and Xavier are not in a good place here at all.
Mm-hmm. But they come out, they start trying to like reason with her, and I find it very manipulative because like she comes and she's very mad because like she's discovering that he's just been lying to her this whole time and everything. And Xavier is just like, no, listen, we're a family. Let's go home and we'll figure this out. And bleh. Like, you're not allowed. Like, there's no reason for, he's gaslighting her, basically.
Is,
And then he sends Scott to talk to her, which is also gross. Like, he's not getting through. And so he's just like, Scott. And so Scott goes and like tries to emotionally manipulate her. But I don't think I think Xavier is emotionally manipulating her through Scott.
Oh, sure. For sure.
He seems genuine. I do like how when Scott comes out, Jean goes straight to him because she doesn't. It's like she drops the like grandeur and is like talking to him like they have a relationship, which I like.
Yes,
but he doesn't get it. Does she knock him out?
At this point, chaos sort of ensues. It seems like Scott's going to be able to talk her down, and then a bunch of cops start rolling in.
Yeah, and that triggers her.
And so she's like, leave me alone. And like the cops' cars kind of hit a wall almost of energy, and they're all like flattened. And
so then the X-Men are like, okay, we're doing this. And so then they go after her.
So Beast pulls a gun, and Cyclops is not, I don't really know what he's trying to do, but it becomes a fight. Like she and Storm fight. Storm's blasting her with lightning and they're like tumbling through, and Nightcrawler, Jean goes to fly away and Nightcrawler teleports up and grabs her, pulls her back down, and then they're like flying through houses and things. It's a whole big thing. Chaos is erupting and Quicksilver goes to run, and he's running on debris as it falls, and she does something. She like is quick enough to knock the debris out from under him, and so he's going at top speed and just hits the ground and rolls and is, destroyed.
Yeah.
And Quicksilver is benched for the rest of the movie.
Yep.
This is it.
Yeah.
Which I guess I don't get how you incorporate him, but I would have liked at least a scene in the middle there of him being like, well this sucks. But
until this moment, we have had a lot from him.
Yeah,
He's been a major player, so I don't know. I didn't really miss it. I thought, it was fine.
I did because I like him. I just think he brings a lot to scenes, And I don't think they have a lot of cast members who do that.
Yeah.
So he's out, and then Mystique, like when all this is going on, Mystique comes out to her, and she's like, look, yes, this is crazy. This is terrible. This is all bad. But like you and I know each other, and this is the thing, and let's just work together and let me help you, and she's getting closer and closer to her. And it's like Jean's almost gonna go for it.
Yeah, and Xavier freezes the action.
Yes.
Because he wants to give Mystique a chance.
Right.
Which I think is interesting.
Yeah.
Because so much of the movie so far has been him
not trusting
undermining her.
Yeah, right.
So he stops Beast from shooting, and he freezes the cops and everything, and just lets them have this kind of bubble moment.
Right.
And
it doesn't work. Like, she gets there and something just doesn't land right, and she's like, get away from me, and does like a big blast out. And Mystique is impaled on rubble. Pretty brutally.
It's pretty brutal. You see like stretching things.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jean is very upset
Yeah.
that this has happened and runs over and is like, no, why is this happening to me? And then she just like flies away.
Yeah, the way she flies, I think, also goes to that ease, because it's not like a Superman thing, or she's not like, now I'm gonna fly. It's just like she's standing there and you realize she's going up.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So Beast comes over and they have a nice moment, and she's clearly trying to tell him that she loves him, but doesn't get it out.
Yeah.
And so he just like is holding her while she dies horribly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very sad. It's a very sad moment.
Yes.
He's devastated. I liked the moment when it the very first second that she's impaled, you get a flash of Xavier, and his reaction, I think, is really, really good.
Yeah.
And in that moment, he's the only one who knows what's happening.
Right.
It's just him.
That's right.
And Mystique and Jean.
That's right. Yep.
And I think that he gets a really good reaction moment there, and then he unfreezes people, and Beast comes.
Yep. So then we cut to a funeral.
Yeah, and Xavier
Yeah.
is doing the homily.
Great.
And talking about, like how she had an impact. And all
Yeah. So this is the scene where Cyclops tries to sort of step up and go to the other kids and be like, hey, look, Jean wasn't in control. This wasn't meant to happen, but like, you guys are all strong, and we'll be all strong. We'll be X-Men together. And it could be a moment where Scott kind of steps up into his own, because Xavier is off in his grief or whatever, and so is Beast, and Mystique is dead, and so Cyclops is kind of like, this could be a place where he like really, but he just doesn't have it. I don't know if it's the actor doesn't have it or if it's not written.
See, that's the thing. No, but that's I think a moment where the writing does give it to him.
Yeah.
Like most of the time, the writing does not give these characters moments. In this scene, I think the writing is like, I mean, just the way you described it, it gives him all of that.
Yeah.
And like, this is the moment, you even with the cinematography, like he steps up, it's got kind of like, I feel like it's shot down from below a little bit. And he just doesn't have a leadership. He doesn't have like a gravitas, nothing. And like, I don't think that's his fault. I think that's more a casting thing than anything else.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the writing does give it to him in that moment.
Yeah.
And he just doesn't have it.
And then it's a bad comparison, because Storm pulls him aside, and she just is all power.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean?
Which I really like. I like that they give Storm this, because that's a big thing in the comic, and just that she is like, I love Jean, but like, this is legit. Like, we can't.
Well, I mean, she's basically saying like, yes, a lot of things are happening, but like, this is Jean. Like, this is Jean's fault. You know what I mean? I think she really is like Cyclops is acting like it was an accident, and Storm's like, no, she did it on purpose. Right.
And we need to deal with that.
Yeah. I don't think she intended to kill Mystique.
No, I don't either.
But I don't think she's really making much of an effort to hold herself back.
Yeah.
I think she's just like, this is how I'm feeling right now. So, ba-bam.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall where they may, and it led to a death. So it is her fault.
Yeah.
But she wasn't like, I shall now murder Mystique.
Yeah.
Then we cut to a Beast Charles scene, which is pretty intense.
Yeah. I mean, like, it just starts, because Charles comes in to like this formal dining room.
Yeah.
Beast is sitting at the head of the table, brooding. And Xavier wants to like commiserate. Like he seems still unaware of what exactly is going on.
Yeah, Beast is clearly furious with him. And Charles is kind of like, rough day.
Yeah.
We lost another one. No one's to blame.
Well,
but
it's interesting to me because we had that moment when Mystique initially dies and you see Xavier's reaction.
Yeah.
And so that relationship is still there.
Yeah.
That he still feels that strong. But all of these scenes, he still feels very disconnected. Like, I don't know if he's just like put himself above the situation now or what, but like he comes in and like it's just like what you said. It's like, boy, this was rough, huh?
Well, I think he's kind of trying to take advantage of the relationship a little bit, because they do have a closeness, and I sort of think he thinks that Beast is just going to
Do you think he feels guilty?
I do think he feels guilty. I think he's trying to cover his guilt.
Yeah, that
by
makes
sort
sense.
of being like, we're brothers in arms here. We both lost someone we care about.
Yeah.
Whereas I do think there was a moment when you see his reaction that there is an element of guilt there, I think.
I mean, that makes sense. Yeah. Because I think, yeah, he has to know at some level. And she specifically talked to him about like taking too many risks and how someone was going to die.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
yeah,
he'd have to be an idiot.
And I mean, when Hank Beast, we keep alternating between what we're calling them, but when he's really sort of railing against Charles, I think all he wants is for him to have some sort of moment of like, yes, I pushed this too far.
Yeah.
But he just won't.
Well, I mean, you see it. It's such a good moment because he's sitting there. Xavier's trying to play it off. And Beast is like, this is your fault. You're a big dumb jerk.
Yeah.
This person that we both love is now dead. Like, he just completely calls him out and is just furious.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it comes. Like, it gets to the point where he just very straight out is just like, just admit that you made a mistake.
Mm-hmm.
Admit you were wrong, please. Yeah. And it's so real. Like, it's just this, like, it's the relationship that gets you to that point.
Yeah.
Like, you just know that feeling of being like, I know you're wrong.
Yeah.
I know you know you're wrong.
Right.
Just say the words.
Yeah. And, you know, Beast is also struggling with guilt because she wanted to leave. Remember? She was like, let's just get out of here. So if he would have been like, yeah, let's peace out.
Right. None of this would have happened.
Though in reality it would have, because Jean was still, they would have come to help Jean. You know what I mean? So I don't.
Of course.
But,
yeah.
But he still feels that moment of like,
well, I mean,
she
it's
knew
kind
this
of,
was past its sell-by date.
Yeah. It's kind of a parallel to Xavier.
Yeah.
Because he feels that it's like at the time when she told him it's time to go, you could tell that he knew she was right.
Yes.
But he didn't want to go.
He couldn't say it out loud. He couldn't really admit it.
And so it's a similar kind of a thing.
It is. Yeah. This was just such an interesting scene for Professor X because, I mean, as we've joked about, he's a pretty terrible character. You know, he does a lot of, like, really unforgivable things, both in the comics and in these movies. Not so much the Patrick Stewart version of the character, but the James McAvoy for sure. I can't think of a lot of times in the comics where he's really has a scene like this where the other person is like, you're terrible.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it makes me wonder about, because all of the things that he gets called out for in the movies, the James McAvoy version of him, are things that are just so evident in the comics. Right. And you just sort of wonder what that decision was to just like really like go for that and be like, he's bad. Like, was that a catharsis thing for like the creators who were like, you know what, we're just gonna go into this?
Maybe. I do feel like,
or is it something about the medium where like you can't get away with not?
Yeah, I mean, I do think there's something to that. Like, when you see it on screen, you can't really...
Yeah.
You see all of his motivations. Where in the comic book, there's a little bit of, like...
Mystique.
Yeah. Oh. But I think, like, you know, there was one that's I don't know, probably 10 years or so old now called Deadly Genesis, which is a X-Men series that really does look at the ways in which Professor X has lied to them at the cost of people's lives and things. And there is a scene like this in that comic book. So I do feel like it's a little bit more... Like in the last maybe 10 years or so, that's become a little bit more like, oh, so he's a very flawed person.
When it started, it was just very acceptable to, like, he's an educated, older white man with money. So clearly, whatever he does is the right thing for all of us.
That's right. He was doing it for you.
Exactly. And, like, when you read it...
How dare you?
From the lens of today...
Yeah.
Even reading those, you're just like, well, he's an awful person. Right. But they're very unaware of it.
True.
And yeah, as society progresses, it becomes more and more clear that that's not acceptable.
Yeah. So, great scene. One of the standout scenes of the movie, I feel like.
Oh, yes. Very good.
Good acting all around.
Good acting from both of them.
We transition back to some bad acting with Jessica Chastain as the Davari show up where the mayhem had just taken place.
And they pretend to be FBI agents.
Yes, because I think one of them is an FBI agent.
Yeah, I think that the tall guy is an FBI agent.
So they go to question.
Placed himself there.
Yes, they go to question Jean's father, who's sort of like, I can't help you here, and then so they're like, oh, well, we'll just torture you.
Yeah, that's a stark turn.
But
it kind of makes sense because of how you see how lofty they are in relation to humans. That they just sort of are like, okay, whatever, you're an ant.
So here is here we have our next turn here where we see Magneto for the first time. He's on an island with other mutants in this idyllic little commune.
I don't think it's an island.
Is it not? I think it is.
Is it? I don't know. I got the impression that it was just
a
remote.
Oh, okay. All right.
And that they were sort of playing.
I thought when we pull back,
it's not a literal
okay.
island. I mean, it could be. But
I guess I thought there was an establishing shot that showed it as an island, and then everything's like helicopter based.
I guess it's something about like the environment,
Yeah,
like the kinds of trees
right.
and things. It doesn't look like.
I just took this as Genosha. I don't think they say it.
They don't say it. I think it's definitely supposed to be.
Okay.
I think this is a really interesting moment. I mean, I've talked before
yes.
in the podcast about how I wish they would stop going back to Magneto.
Yeah.
Because it really weakens his impact.
Yeah.
But I do think that the idea of her going back to him after he's sort of left the whole thing, and that's pretty interesting, and I like seeing what they've done with this refuge.
You made a point off mic before we were recording that I feel like is exactly true. What if there was no Magneto in Apocalypse, and we went a movie without him?
Yes.
I mean,
and then you see him again, and then it's like cool.
And then he's in like sort of a different place.
X-Men movie.
Yeah.
If they had just glossed over the Magneto, then the next time you see him,
well,
it's better.
You don't need Magneto in Apocalypse.
No, you don't. I mean,
he doesn't add anything to that movie. His absence wouldn't take anything away from it. And so I think you're exactly right. If we had last seen him in Days of Future Past.
Mm-hmm. And then he shows up here.
Yeah, and then we're like, who is she going to see? Who's she going to go find? And then it's Magneto, and he's all like,
completely
chill.
Different.
You know what I mean? He's just like a J. Crew dad, just like hanging out.
Yeah.
You know?
Would have been very cool.
It absolutely would have.
Plan ahead, guys. Come on.
Basically, Jean is coming to be like, hey, you have terrible impulses, and you somehow control them. Can you teach me? And so he's kind of like a little untrusting, I think, at first.
Yeah, he's trying to feel out the situation because she's got blood on her, and he keeps saying, whose blood is that? Whose blood is that?
And she is not wanting to share that information.
She's not forthcoming about that. But, yeah, I think he plays it very well. You know, I think the cool thing that you get in this scene is Magneto's confidence.
Yeah.
Because he knows how powerful she is.
Right.
He doesn't know how powerful she is right now.
Right.
But he knows that she's a very powerful mutant.
Yeah.
But he also knows that he's a very powerful mutant.
Yeah.
And he doesn't seem to have any... I don't know. Just the way he plays it is very like, I can sort of like have the freedom to figure out what's going on here.
Yeah, exactly.
Because if it goes south, I can handle it.
He doesn't consider for a moment, I don't think, the danger to himself until it's too late, because his approach is to try to force a burst of power from her.
Ultimately, yeah.
He's kind of like needling her and being like, what is it, Jean?
Yeah.
Wanting her to let it loose.
Well, the kinds of questions she's asking him and the fact that she has blood on him, it becomes quickly apparent to him that something really bad has happened.
Yeah. And it kind of looks like maybe we are gonna see a little Phoenix action, and then military helicopters start showing up, and that makes it even worse. They're coming for Jean.
You get a cool scene because they land and Jean is hiding.
Yes.
And Magneto goes up and just talks to them and is like, we have a right to be here.
Yeah, like
we have
this
whatever
is the government gave us this land and blah blah blah. He's like, Jean who? Jean what?
Yeah. And then the military guy is really, I don't know, it's cool. I like in this whole movie how aware everyone is of the mutants.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So he just comes in, he's like, we're not here for you. It just feels very grounded and almost like a procedural show or something. Just that, like, we know that he's this like crazy criminal, but like, we're not here for you. We're here for Jean. And Magneto, again, very confident. He can control this entire situation. Mm-hmm. But his instinct is to protect her.
Yeah.
In this moment.
Mm-hmm. Well, keep in mind, I mean, in this continuity and First Class and everything, it was kind of him and Charles together, like, taking in these students, So I think he's still, no matter how far he gets away from that, I think he still always has a little bit of that impulse,
Yeah, and I mean, it's true to Magneto in general, too,
sure.
Because, like, his whole thing is mutants against everyone else.
Right.
So if there's a mutant, no matter what they've done,
yeah, good point.
He's gonna protect him.
Well, so Jean shows herself and then pretty quickly destroys a helicopter.
Yeah, and then you have the cool like tug of war
Yeah.
with her and Magneto.
Yeah, he's trying to keep it in place and she's trying to do whatever to it, and I think he ultimately Because she's trying to destroy both of them, right?
She's trying to destroy the helicopters.
Yeah,
she's trying to destroy the helicopters, but she doesn't seem to like care if they're destroyed or not. She just wants them to get out of there.
Right, yeah.
But you have the tug of war where she's just trying to like get it out of there. Magneto's trying to make it stable.
Yeah.
Eventually he's pushing. You have a lot of effort from him, not a lot of effort from her.
Yeah.
He does ultimately prevail, but she's not trying that hard.
That's true.
But he stabilizes the thing. He gets the guys to get into it and just like throws it.
Yeah, tosses it into the
atmosphere, and I guess it's fine.
And then he's basically like, the atmosphere. Then he's like, you gotta go. You gotta get out of here. Like, this is a nice, peaceful place, and your whole vibe is really disrupting that.
And she says, "You're supposed to protect mutants," and he says, "I am protecting them from you."
Yeah, good turn.
Strong moment.
Then we got a couple of real quick scenes here. One in the mansion where Professor X is wanting to help. He's wanting to help what's going on. And we see on TV the government's cracking down against mutant. One incident, and the government is like,
That's
forget
what he said.
Scrap it.
That's what he
Scrap
said.
It.
When Mystique was talking about it, in the like early on, he said, "We are one bad day away from them treating us like we're monsters again." And he was right.
And here he goes. So he goes and he picks up his bat phone, and presses presses the giant X. And somebody, like a flunky, answers, and they're like, "Yeah, this line is going to be disconnected." So
Which honestly seems short-sighted
a little
to
bit.
me from like a president, but
a little bit.
You know, for the story makes sense.
Okay. And so Charles is pretty much like, well, we had a good run. I won an award. I got to go to a party, and here we are.
Yep.
Then we jump to a bar, and we have an old man drinking, and Vuk, Jessica Chastain, sits down next to the old man and very clearly sees through the disguise that it's Jean.
Yeah.
And
Which I thought it was cool because like something about how they shot the old man, you knew that it was gonna be. I don't know cinematography, but I liked that.
Oh, you don't?
It's not my specialty.
Oh.
Yeah, didn't go to school for that.
So her pitch is basically like, look, you've got this sweet power. We've been chasing this power. You're holding it. Let me teach you how to work it. This is the beginning of a beautiful friendship, sister.
Yeah.
And Jean, I mean, at this point, she's burned a lot of bridges, I guess.
Yeah.
So
I think she just grabs the rope.
Yeah. She's like, okay, all right, let's do it.
Yeah. So they're now a team, basically, but she's sort of just going along with whatever. This is something that I thought was interesting.
Okay.
That we haven't really talked about yet. In the original Dark Phoenix, Jean is the one who destroys an entire civilization.
Yes.
As the Phoenix.
Yes. The Dabari.
Yes. In the movie, they just have that already having happened. And I think that's interesting.
The Phoenix Force.
Yeah, the Phoenix Force just did that. Jean herself had nothing to do with it. So you don't have any of that, like, major guilt and, like, what's her responsibility and all of that stuff.
I prefer that, I guess. I mean, I like that element to it if you're going to explore it. So I guess they knew that they weren't going to explore it, so it's probably good to skip it.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, when I was reading it, I did get the feeling of like, well, how do we get past that? Like, that's real big.
Yeah.
And then they sort of try to, and then she sort of like redeems herself by giving herself up or whatever.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I think it's probably a good choice to not.
For the movie, I think so, yeah. You're probably right.
Yeah.
Well, now we're back on Genosha, and I think, is it just Beast who comes? Or
it's just Beast. Beast comes, he takes the Blackbird himself.
Yeah.
He lands there, and he's like, Charles is stupid.
Yeah.
We have to deal with Jean. And it's interesting because I don't get the impression that Beast is at all trying to deal with Jean to protect the world or anything like that. Like, it really does just feel like vengeance.
I think she's just the villain in his mind now at this point, and like their responsibility is to like stop the villain.
Well, so, I don't know. Like, see, I don't even think that.
Oh, you think he just is like?
I think he's just pissed because she killed Mystique. Okay. I do.
All right.
And like that makes sense to me coming from Magneto.
Yeah.
Because like that's where Beast tells him who died, and so Magneto's like, "Well, we're gonna kill Jean."
Yeah, and they have a little scene there where. I don't know. They're like, we've had our disagreements, but we both loved her. And I guess I was having trouble tracking Magneto and Mystique's relationship. Maybe I'm just not remembering the other movies so much.
Yeah, they were very close.
They were.
Especially in the beginning.
Okay.
And
I remember the scene where she's like in the bed and she switches to Rebecca Romaine.
Yeah.
And they have kind of a...
Their thing is sort of like they dabbled in romance, but then he sort of turned into, I don't know. She was like, I feel like she was a symbol for him.
Okay.
Of what he wants for mutants.
Okay.
Because of her visible mutation.
Okay, so it's not so much romance between them as like sort of a...
I think it's a complicated thing, but I think that he feels very strongly about her.
Well, then I accept that. All right.
So they decide that they're going to go after Jean. They're going to kill her because Xavier's not going to take care of the situation.
Yeah.
So now we've got, like, we're getting into the action. Like, this is, we're all preparing for dealing with Jean.
Right.
So the X-Men are going to go get her, like save her, I think is their general perspective.
And they try to bench Storm, and she is not having it.
No, and they give a good chunk of time to that.
Yeah, they do.
Conversation, which I think is nice, because I guess it's like too dangerous. I can't ask you to do that kind of a situation. And she's like, I'm coming. Mm-hmm. And they're like, no, I don't think. And then Scott's like, she's coming. Yeah. And it's nice because the implication is that they need her because she's so strong. Yeah. Which I like.
Yeah, I like it too. I also like, I mean, we got 2 Cyclops Storm scenes, and if this were a franchise that were going forward, you would really need to lock in that like power duo.
Yeah.
You know, they'd really need to step up there. So I like that they're doing that.
It's cool to see.
It is.
So we've got them amping up.
Yeah.
Then we have Magneto. He takes out his
pretty good moment where he goes to like a trunk and pulls out the helmet and tosses it on.
Because he's talked to Jean already about how he's put that stuff behind him and he's just like fostering this community here and he's like, you know what? We're going to war, and he puts his helmet on. And then we get back to what is like a mansion somewhere in the city. Mm-hmm. And Vuk. Whatever.
VUK.
Is heavy into manipulating Jean. Yeah. You know, we're in this together. They don't understand you, whatever, all of that stuff. While they're doing that, the X-Men come out to it's Central Park, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they just roll up. Yep.
So they're in the park. Magneto and Xavier meet again, old friend, all of that. And they sort of have their conversation. We're going to save her. No, we're going to kill her. And then Magneto just goes.
He does. I want to mention one tweet that we got in regards to this. @Jeremiah says, I know this might be the kind of reaction you're looking for, but I really like this shot when Magneto walks across Central Park West. He just looks like angry Magneto crossing the street, avoiding a crosswalk.
Yeah, he does.
It's funny because I saw that on Twitter before we watched the movie. So when that scene came, it definitely disrupted the flow for me because that's all I could see where he's like, darn this traffic. Just like walking across with his helmet and like whatever he's wearing. It's just a funny moment. But yes, so Magneto is just like, you know what? Do your thing. I'm just heading right to the heart of the matter.
Yep.
I need you to explain to me what happens next because he pulls a subway car out of the...
That doesn't happen yet.
Does it not?
There's more stuff. Isn't there more stuff with fighting and things? Am I wrong?
Well, I mean... I don't know.
Okay, yes, this is what happens because Magneto just goes, and I think Beast follows, and then the X-Men.
Yeah, the X-Men are like tussling with the Dabari and the guy who like uses his hair to fight, which is silly, but
yes. So yeah, the X-Men and Magneto's people and the Dabari are all fighting.
Yes. Right
in front of this building.
Yeah.
And that's right. Magneto uses his power and pulls a subway car out of the ground.
Like, to what end,
I think to block everybody.
To block everybody.
Yes, because everybody's fighting and trying to stop him from getting to Jean.
Okay.
And so instead of fighting them and then going to Jean, he just takes a subway car and sort of drags it behind him into the house to block the way. And then the two of them have a moment alone.
Okay. All right. I'll accept it.
So he gets in and is, gonna kill her.
Right. So he uses his power to like pull a railing off and is trying to like stab her through the heart, and she stops it.
Yeah, and it's a cheesy moment. I don't like it because he takes the railing and it's pointy and then it like goes to her eye. Yeah. It's just like, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen it 100 times.
Superman Returns?
Oh yeah.
Classic.
That was good. See, that's different. Anyway, because it actually hits it.
Yeah, that's right. Well, so she basically turns it around on him, and then it drops harmlessly, but then she starts taking his helmet and is like smashing the helmet in on his face. And you sort of think maybe she's going to kill him, but then I don't know if it's him or her, but the helmet like
rips apart.
Yeah. And
yeah, I assumed it
around.
Was her, but it could have been just him breaking it to stop it from...
Yeah. Anyway, it is kind of a cool moment, but then Jean is basically just like, be gone, and kind of shoots him out of there. Then the next scene, Xavier makes his way in, and she's like, walk up here to me, and he's like, I can't. And then she like picks him up and manipulates his legs like up the stairs.
Like ragdoll.
It is. It's
thing.
A very it's kind of an upsetting scene.
Yeah.
It
is upsetting, but I don't understand why he finds it painful, because she's basically just carrying him.
Right. Yeah.
And he doesn't have any sensation in his legs.
Yeah.
I mean, like, it's humiliating.
I guess I didn't know. You think he was, like, in physical pain?
He acts like he is.
Okay. I guess that wasn't the vibe I got.
He's like, please don't do this. And then his face is all, like, crazy when he gets up there. But anyway, she makes him walk up because she's mad at him because he lied about her dad, I guess, is basically
he lied about everything.
The situation. And he's trying to get through to her. I know you're really in there and all this stuff. But she's seeming like she's letting the Phoenix Force get more control than it had to this point. So he gets through to her a little bit. She reads his mind. He's like, I can't read your mind, but you can read mine. Right. And so he tries to show her like all these good memories of how nice he was to her, basically.
Right.
And so she cracks for a second.
Yes, it was built on a house of lies, but...
So she cracks for a second. He's like, I knew you were in here. Then what? Oh, then Vuk comes in and is like, she plays this masterfully, I think.
She does. You're right.
Because she doesn't say, no, that's all lies. She sees that the transition has happened. Yeah. And so she's like, okay, great. That's your past.
Right.
I'm your future. Yeah. And it's really... I think masterful.
It is. No, it's a good pivot in the moment.
Yeah. She's clever.
And so then it's like Jean is going to pass the Phoenix Force to her, and so they get into like a mind meld type thing. I think that's my third Star Trek reference. I apologize. But that's essentially what's happening here. And they're trying to stop this. Yeah,
cuz Jean is tired. I don't want the Phoenix Force anymore. You can take it. And so she gets some of it, I guess.
I'm not sure.
Before they cut off?
I'm not sure.
Because later she's walking around and she's got like the sparkles. Yeah, she does have the power.
Yeah, so they sort of split it, I guess. And Xavier's trying to stop it. He's seeing the danger, trying to get her to stop. Jean, it seems like maybe is dying. Like her sucking the Force out of here is maybe going to kill Jean. I think she's like losing her life force or whatever. But it's really, this is another cool thing because they're sort of, Jean and Vuk are hugging sort of like she's letting her rest on her. Mm-hmm. And Xavier can see Vuk's face. Right. And he's like, you're going to kill everyone. Right, and she's like, yup. Yeah. So then Cyclops rushes in, like, through the bottom, and is like, Jean! And blasts with the optic blast and knocks her away.
One thing we get from Cyclops in this movie is we get his power.
True.
I really like, anytime he walks into a room, he knocks everyone flat. Yeah, true. Which I like.
True. Yeah. So then while this is happening and everybody's sort of, beaten up because there's like 3 factions at war here, I'm not sure who this is. The cops, the military, somebody comes in and starts putting collars on all of the mutants, including the X-Men.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably stemming from what things were happening earlier,
right,
with the government cracking down.
Yeah.
So it's like whatever system they have in place.
So we've got basically all of the mutants, all of the X-Men.
They put the collars on them, and then they just like drag them by their necks. Yeah. I don't really think that's how bodies work. Yeah, I think they would just die.
They get them on a train, and they're all in there, and they're going away, and they're kind of waking up and realizing what's happening and everything. Jean is somewhere separate. And really quick, it's clear that the Dabari are coming for this train because they still want Jean. So they've regrouped and they're coming. So all of the X-Men are like, bro, you have to let us go because we're the only ones, like, we're all going to die unless you take these collars off us. And they're like, yeah, right, mutie, And it's not going anywhere good. So the Dabari show up and start just kind of going through car by car. And we've got one guard is kind of like, I think maybe we should let these guys go. And he makes his way over to it after most of them are dead. And hits the button so the collars release and the X-Men
I
can
also
go into
like
action.
that there's more than one button.
Yeah, there's more than one button.
He has to be like, these ones, these
Yeah.
ones, these ones,
Yeah.
these ones.
Clip, clip,
I like
clip,
that.
clip. Turn a key.
Yeah.
Turn a key simultaneously.
So he lets them go, and they're
Yes.
like, okay,
Yep.
here we go.
Yep.
And then we're all a team.
Yeah.
Now, it's not the mutants against the mutants.
Right.
It's all of the mutants against all of the Dabari.
Yes.
And they're at least defending Jean from the perspective of, if the Dabari get her,
Right.
it's all over.
Right. And it's a fun team up moment to have Magneto in there with them, and they're all kind of like going crazy.
Yeah, it's cool.
So, I mean, things are just escalating very quickly.
You get a lot of fun train fights.
Oh,
Some
yeah,
people are like on top of the train,
blasting
and
through
running
and
through all the
everything.
different cars.
It gets more murdery than you'd think.
There's a lot of murdering of the humans.
Yes, and I think
and of the Dabari.
Yeah.
Which I always think is weird. Like, I don't like when they do this in movies where, like, there's an alien or something,
and so you just
like who cares about their life?
Yeah,
you're
gonna lose a couple aliens. Yeah,
they're still people,
right?
And
well,
doesn't that sort of just go against the entire ethic that we're building in these movies?
Well, you think about to talk MCU for a minute, like the first Avengers movie. You have the Chitauri that are there, and everybody's just like, kill him.
Yeah,
just kill him. So, I remember at the time, we were still doing All the Book show, Eric and I, and he could not get over Nightcrawler's turn in here. This was the thing. This was like the sticking point for Eric here. And I think he makes a very good point. To see Nightcrawler be like, oh, I'm mad at you now.
Well, I imagine.
And he's like impaling people with his tail and just like murdering people.
Yeah. I think they were probably going for, we've seen Nightcrawler as an adult be crazy murdery. And let's see what it would be like for this cute little version of him to be like that. But, like, it's not good enough.
No.
Like, what happens is someone kills that one FBI agent who let them go.
Right.
And that just, like, sends him into a crazy rage. And, like, I mean, he didn't know that guy. You'd be upset, but, like, that's not enough to change him completely.
It is so far out of character for, I think, really any version of Nightcrawler.
Yeah. Well, like, even when you think about when he's murdery, he's being controlled.
Exactly.
It's not him.
Right. And so, I think this is probably the worst character work of the movie because you just can't...
Yeah.
You can't reconcile it with the Nightcrawler of the comics, of the movies that we've seen so far, of the animated, nothing.
It's gotta just be, like, someone was like, wouldn't it be cool if... And then they just did it.
I just don't think you need it. Like, so much is going on.
Yeah.
I think... Nightcrawler's powers have the ability to be really creative with how he's dispatching these people. There's lots of things he could have done that would have been cool and action-packed without just, like, him stabbing a bunch of people.
Yeah.
So I have to side with Eric on that. I think that was a big mistake movie-wise.
Yeah.
So everybody's trying to make it to Jean at this point, and Charles and Scott do make it to Jean, while Vuk is taking out the X-Men, and then it's, like, facing off Magneto, and he kind of seals it shut, so it's just the two of them. A clash of titans.
And Scott's trying to wake her up, basically. Wake Jean up.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Magneto's doing his, like, at this point, he knows that he might die, I think. And is doing kind of a, I will take care of the situation, I'll put myself at risk, kind of a grandiose situation.
Yep. So, I mean, Jean is, once again, in Charles' head, and they have, like, a true heart-to-heart. Before, it was, like, images. Now it's, like, the two of them.
In a room.
Yeah. Really, like... hashing it out. And I don't know that Xavier, I feel like he gets away a little too easy, but she forgives.
He says he was wrong.
He does, which is a big moment.
He says that he made a mistake.
Yeah.
He shouldn't have done those things.
Yeah.
I don't know if he says he was sorry. He probably does.
Yeah.
Well, so, yeah, I mean, like, the things he did were bad enough that he shouldn't be able to just be like, I was wrong and get away with it. But at least he does that.
The acknowledgement. We've been trying to get an acknowledgement from him the entire movie. Every character has.
Yes, so it's a big deal that we get that. She forgives him. She wakes up in the car.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and basically now she's awake. She can take care of the situation.
Right.
And it's reminiscent of the early scene with the shuttle,
right,
where she just gets it in her head, and it's true, that, she needs to deal with this. She's the only one who can. She's going to sacrifice herself for her family.
Yeah.
So she gets all the X-Men free. She gets rid of all of the Dabari.
Mm-hmm. Like, disintegrates the Dabari.
Which is, I think, a nice callback to what is it, Last Stand?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because she's always disintegrating
She's
things.
disintegrating things. So then it's just like her and Vuck, and they're like locked again, and the feel is kind of like, you want this power, here you go.
I think she says that.
You know.
She's like, take it all. And then she starts to kind of like, it's too much.
Yeah, and Scott's trying to get to her, and he starts disintegrating, so it's like she can't
release all of her power without killing the people she doesn't want to kill.
Yeah, so she almost like black holes herself and like turns it inward.
Yeah, and then Vuk is like, haha, you
Yeah.
can't use your power. And Jean's like, well, we're going into space.
Yeah.
She just launches them up
Yeah.
because then she can
Right.
just like release herself and
Yeah.
nothing will happen. And so
Yeah.
she goes up into space. There's a big explosion.
Yeah.
It looks just like a phoenix. It's very grand.
And then
Scott is very sad.
And then it's like a hard cut to them changing the sign at the school to the Jean Grey school.
Yes.
Which I don't think is warranted. Like in the comics, it makes sense to have a Jean Grey school. Here, I don't think so.
Yeah, well, I mean, in the comics, it's after she's, like, contributed for her entire life
Exactly.
and all that stuff.
Yeah.
That's true.
Here, it's like she's a sophomore.
Yeah.
And she killed a lot of people.
That's true.
What
And
kinda helped.
Xavier's still, like, around.
Yeah, he's still there. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Whatever.
I didn't think about
I
that.
thought it was strange.
I was like, oh, and now it's the Jean Grey school.
Yeah. And then we have another voiceover where she's basically like, I found my path forward. This is not the end of me.
Yeah, which is another kind of sad thing because, like, it's not even ambiguous.
Right.
It's not like, did she die or
Right.
did she evolve? It's like, no, she's fine.
She evolved and she's cool.
She's
and
just hanging around in space.
she'll see you in the next bit of this trilogy. We see a bit of Quicksilver again. Just like as the kids are running through the hall, he's kind of like, slow down, these kids.
It's pretty cute.
I honestly wish that we only would have gotten Quicksilver in the end. Like have a small scene with him at the end and not. I just feel like having him.
You feel super strongly
I
about
do.
the use of Quicksilver
I
in
like
this movie.
him a lot,
I
and
didn't care. I mean, I thought it was fine. I thought it made sense for him to be part of the team. You got to see some of his cool work.
I don't think like having him have the accident and then be totally gone until this quick moment. I think is silly.
I had no problem with it.
I think have him in the scene where they're trying to decide when Storm's like, no, I'm going, like have Quicksilver there but
That's
not able
true.
to come.
Yeah,
There are
with
moments
crutches or something.
Yes. There are moments when he should have been there and he wasn't, and I just feel like that's a character they put a lot of time into, and he's essentially
Yeah, all right. I
he's
guess I can
gone
see
and
that.
then gets like the Kelsey Grammer moment at the end of X-Men 3 here, and I just think we needed
I liked it. I thought it was funny.
okay,
He's like,
all right.
safety first.
No, it is funny.
I think he delivers
just-
it really well.
He does. I just don't think structurally in the movie Quicksilver is used correctly.
Yeah. Okay. Well, anyway.
All right.
We're
And now
it's
Beast
sort
is
of
like
all
in
is
charge,
all
right?
is well
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
We're just seeing kind of back to business, kids running around in the
Yeah.
halls, and yeah, Beast goes to the headmaster's office and
Yep.
sits down. He's in charge, which is a nice development for
Yeah, it
his
is.
character.
It is.
Nice to have him
Yeah.
sort of rise above just being like following along behind Xavier
Yeah.
the whole time. Kind of a nice step.
Yeah. And then we sort of dissolve to Xavier sitting in an outdoor cafe with Catwoman while Michael Caine sees him.
He's fine.
I'm sorry, that's a different movie.
Different movie.
He's sitting there and Magneto comes up with a little foldable chessboard and they sit down, and
Yeah, this I didn't understand as a closer to this movie.
I think it's just a callback to Patrick Stewart.
Yeah,
I
which
mean,
is that's fine. It's just that's not a relationship that we were doing anything with.
No, but
and I don't know that Magneto relates to the kind of character work we were doing with Xavier. I think it would make more sense for it to be anyone else. Anyone who had like that kind of relationship with him.
I get what you're saying. I guess I took it more as sort of like they started this stuff together and now they've both sort of like aged out of it. Like all the things they were trying to do is continuing on and they're
Yeah.
not a part of it.
No, I get it. I do. I just don't think that it makes sense to be in the movie. I think it's like
I mean, I thought like we've done this before. I wasn't like, but I guess it didn't bother me.
I don't know.
I kind of whatevered about it.
That's exactly it, though. Like
Yeah.
it's this big. It feels like a big reveal that
Yeah.
he's in Paris, and like I don't care. That
Oh, I
he's in
didn't think it was a
Paris.
reveal.
And like,
I
it's
look-
ending. It's ending something that we weren't talking about in this movie.
I look at this much more like a post-credit scene. The movie is over.
That would be fine.
That's what I think it is. That's how I view it.
Is it a post-credit scene?
No, I don't think it technically is, but I think like
I mean, I guess it's fine. I was wondering where he was. Like, B sits
Yeah.
in the headmaster's office, so,
Yeah.
like, where's Xavier? But it also doesn't really feel like he's getting his just desserts. It doesn't feel like a natural thing that happens because of the things that he had done. I don't know. There's no poetic justice that I can understand.
I feel like there is, because I think it's that he can't go back. Like, yes, he sort of got forgiveness from Jean, and we've kind of, like, come to a healthier place, but it can't just be like, okay, guess I'm still head of the school and everybody has to listen to me. I think he was essentially, like, fired from the X-Men. And I think he's just sort of like a sad guy who's out of the game.
Yeah, I guess.
And so Magneto, anyway,
I guess.
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying. What do you think? Oh, we see the Phoenix Force. We see the Phoenix Force.
Oh, and it's like in Paris, right? So this is like months later.
Yeah.
And we just see her
She's
like
just strafing.
skimming the atmosphere.
Yeah.
She's just checking on things, I guess. I don't know.
She dropped her cell phone when she was fighting with the Vug.
She's like, this is embarrassing. I don't want to say goodbye again.
Yeah.
I'm just going to sneak in.
Right.
Anyway, I liked it. I think my general impression after watching it a second time is that it's an enjoyable movie. It's got good action. I wasn't bored. It's fine.
Yeah, I feel
it doesn't stand out to me.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like, I don't know. I remembered it being more unique.
I agree.
And it just feels very standard.
Listen, I was so prejudiced against this movie that when I watched it in the theaters and it wasn't just like a complete train wreck, I was like, yeah.
Yeah, I really think that played into it a lot.
Also, and I can't stress this enough, I hated Apocalypse. And so this movie on the heels of that, to me, was like,
oh, this
okay,
is a functional movie.
An X-Men movie.
This is a movie with a beginning, middle, and end.
So I left feeling pretty good about it. And when I watched it this time, I didn't have that same nostalgia, but I think it still holds up. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't like it as much as I did the first time, but I still enjoy it.
Yeah, I agree. We have a Twitter thing. Aaron Skinner said...
Sinner. You're thinking X-Files.
I am thinking X-Files. And there's
Skinner.
an X in it.
Oh, you're right.
Okay. At Aaron Sinner talks about seeing it in the theaters. He says, after watching this film in the theater, I turned to my wife and said, I think that was the worst X-Men movie I've ever seen.
Wow.
She turned back and said, I think I disliked that movie exactly as much as every other X-Men movie I've ever seen.
Well, good for her. She
Love
keeps
it.
going.
I love it.
She keeps going. Yeah, I mean, there was some positive things too. I mean, I know some people were saying this was the best X-Men movie they'd ever seen.
Yeah, we had quite an array of Twitter responses about this movie.
We really did.
So, yeah, you know.
I thought Olympic Empire had a pretty good point too. He says on Twitter, besides replacing the Hellfire Club with those aliens, I don't actually mind the changes that were made. Replacing Jean's repressed fantasies with repressed trauma and having her be manipulated by exploiting her paranoia instead of illusions were inspired changes. IMO, in my opinion. Yeah, I didn't mind that either. I always thought the Hellfire stuff was a little crazy. But anyway, I mean, it sounds like we're both sort of on the same page with this movie. I think we Dark Phoenixed.
Yeah.
See you next time, Hilary.
Bye-bye. Thank you to Prophetic Music for our theme song. You can find more about this show and others like it at our network's website, radiomeanwhile.com. Follow us on Twitter at Previously on X. Please rate, subscribe, or share this show wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks so much for listening.